Hello everyone. Been working on Godzilla. I got frustrated with the way my seam filling was going. It wasn't looking good to me. And out of frustration, I decided to start scraping off my Aves. And then I hit upon a very, very lucky thing. Let me show you what's going on here. Okay, let's zoom this in so we can see the tail better. Here's where I scraped all the Aves off. I'm about to replace that and let it dry till tomorrow. And then I just started taking the tip and scraping along there. And if you look, that's matching exactly the textures. I mean, almost perfectly. I'm just randomly scraping that Aves off there. Okay, and I hit the end of the tail up with it pretty hard. Alright. Then I tried it on an arm. And I don't know if you guys can see that. Of course, it doesn't want to focus on that arm. There it goes. That's matching the textures on there almost perfectly. Okay? So this is going incredibly fast now. And I do mean incredibly fast. I'm really happy I stumbled upon that. Tried it on one of the legs. Not that leg. This leg right here. Let's zoom in on that so you can see it. And you'll notice it's matching. I mean, it's just perfect. I'm just randomly scratching the crap out of the dried Aves. So, I'll have those seams filled by tomorrow night. Good thing, because I can start putting Godzilla together tomorrow night. I've got a trick I'm going to try on his feet to get the pattern back on his feet. I did a little bit more painting along here with the Mr. Surfacer, trying to restore the texture I scraped off. I saw a pattern to my painting, so I did a little bit more to remove the pattern. Okay, I still need to fix his nose up a little bit and do a little bit of sanding along his nose, and then that's done. But boy, I had a lucky breakthrough tonight. It's taking a lot less time to get these textures back than I thought it would take. I had made a texture stamp, by the way, just dropped it on the floor. Let me get it. Alright, I had made a texture stamp. It's right here in my hand. When I was playing around at the beginning, all I did is take some Aves, wrap it around his arm, let it cure and pull it off. And the Aves will take the texture from a dried Aves. I tried that too, and I know it will take the texture from dried Aves. The problem is, the textures vary so greatly from part to part on this model. I would end up making like 15 of these texture stamps to get it to look right. Whereas just randomly scraping with a knife is doing a better job than the texture stamps are. Go figure. Okay? Well, the texture on this is pretty random, so randomly scraping with a knife, it works. Alright, so I'm going to patch up where I've scraped off my Aves, patch up a few other things. One other thing I want to talk about. His palm had a big old mold mark in the center of it. Well, I filled it and imprinted some textures to match the palm of my hand. I put the palm lines in there matching the palm of my hand. So now he has palm lines in his hand instead of a big old hole. So that's where we stand with Godzilla. I will return later, probably the next day, because I need to let this Aves cure up before I can do too much more with the big G. I can probably drill his nostrils, but I'm waiting on reference photos. I could go dig those out. So, we'll be back later. I'm just happy I got the textures worked out on him. We'll be able to put the rest of his body together sometime in the next day or two. Great news to me. That means I will have this guy ready for paint this weekend, hopefully. And today's Sunday, so hopefully by next Sunday I'll have him ready for paint. I am going to paint his mouth up tonight, though. And we'll come back and detail that. Thanks. It's update time. I have been working on Godzilla, and I think I've got the majority of the seams done. I'm going to hit it with some primer in the next day or two to find out for sure, because I'm not going to know until I hit it with the primer and let me see it. But my trick of scraping down the Aves, to me, looks pretty good. Just visually, and to my fingers, it looks good too. None of this stands out too far above where the seam was. It's all pretty level with the... Here, let's zoom in so you guys can see this instead of just watching me play with them. Okay? It's all pretty level with the surface of the parts. Okay. It's pretty randomized, which is what you want, being an organic being. Here we have the seam on the arms. One of the arms, here's my other arm. And the tail. And again, I need to hit this with some primer so I can see what's going on. I've even worked through the rounded seams around the bottom here. Reinscribed them a little bit. So, again, we're just waiting for some primer. Not going to primer it tonight. Just not going to do it. I'm going to work on King Ghidorah for a little bit. I'm also going to primer his main body, the seam down the center, so I can see what's going on with it. I'm going to work on his nose a little bit, though, before I start on King Ghidorah. Also, I've been working on Mothra. Just a little bit. Whenever I have a few minutes here and there to spare, I work with Mothra. One other thing I've been working with, I have to walk away and get it, so bear with me for a second. I'll just pause the camera so you don't have to wait. I'm back. You didn't have to wait long, did you? Yeah, even though it would have been a second if I'd left it anyhow. What I've been doing? Making little trees. Okay? They're made from copper wire. I took an extension cord, cut the wire out of it, started twisting trees together. I think these two are the better ones. I've made 5 trees. The other ones aren't so good. I'm going to paint those tomorrow and see what they look like, and then put some leaves on them. If they look good enough, I'll explain what I'm doing. If they don't, I'm not going to come back and show you what I'm doing until I get it right, so I can explain it to you. Oh, that's not fair. I'll explain what I'm doing in a little bit. Some of the trees are going to look okay, some of them to me aren't going to look good. We'll see. What I'm really waiting on with the trees is I've ordered the 2 movies that these 2 monsters fought each other in. It's Godzilla vs. Ghidorah and Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. Those are the 2 movies these model kits are from. I've also got some questions about scale, because when I keep watching video clips, you know, sometimes these guys are freaking huge, sometimes they're not. I don't even think the people making the movies cared about scale. I think they're just make them fun. So we will see. Once I get the movies, I'll be able to talk about scale and just get an idea how big the trees really were. I do know what trees are sized in Japan. They're anywhere from about 15 meters to, I think, 100 meters. I think the biggest tree in Japan is 150 meters or 200 meters. I got it written down somewhere. I did some research just looking. And these trees are within that scale size. So, the ones I've been making. So, it'll be okay. But watching the video, there aren't a whole lot of trees in the areas they're fighting. It's low-lying shrubs and scrub and grass. I think it's because they did this all in the studio and they didn't want trees everywhere. So I may not have to make a lot of trees. That's a bonus, right? They've never really fought too much in mountains areas. There's always a picture of Mount Fuji in the background. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the castle. I may not have to make a big mountain. I'm also trying to decide if I want to put a river down the center or put a roadway down the center. I actually tried sculpting a bus the other night. When I find it, I'll show it to you guys. It's in the King Ghidorah kit. So I'll be back. I'm going to go work on King Ghidorah, detail what I've done there.